Okay, we are live. Few different last minute changes that we will be addressing shortly. Just firstly make sure everything looks and sounds okay. Alright, looks like you can hear the background music. Looks like you guys can hear me. Hopefully you can see me fine. It looks like it's just gonna be me tonight. So Mike was gonna join me. His channel is linked in the description below. Please check him out. But his power went out, so just me. Brandon actually is moving today, so he's not available either. But when I had Mike coming on, so it's like, all right, I don't have to get anyone else. It could just be me and him. But then his power went out, so it is now. It's now just me for the podcast, which doesn't make any sense. It's more like it's not really a podcast anymore, is it? Whatever. It's fine. So, we're still going to talk about the topics tonight. No big deal. Brandon White, you are here. Hey. Yeah? Harry, you think I should hit up Nate? Maybe. I mean, I guess we could share a Discord call. That's possible. That's an idea. I mean, we'd be it's not totally out of the question. All right. So, I'm just checking the chat here. Hello there, Darth OP. Hello there, DW for Smash. Hello there, Charles Stradell. Andres Restarto. Thank you, Harry Myers. Alexis T. Hopefully it's Pokemon Stadium 3. What is Pokemon Stadium? I mean, we got the Pokemon Presents today. There was no Pokemon Stadium 3. Okay. Yeah. Garrus Zod, the way that the DLC and demo were confirmed was confusing. Hello there, Having Hope 5. Pangors, bro, no more spoilers. What spoilers? We're not talking about spoilers. I said there would be one single. I said there would be one single video about the art book. One single video. I said this several times. I said it in videos. I said it in the live streams. I made several community posts. So it would be only one video. That is it. So for anyone who's wondering about the art book stuff, there's one video on the channel. You can go to that video to talk about it all. I'm checking the comments, so if you want to chat with me about it, you can. In that video and nothing else. We will not be talking about the art book at all. Yeah. Also, for those worried about a takedown, I know what I'm doing. What I did was totally okay. So, I know what I'm doing. Brandon White. Andre, me and my 8-year-old son are loving Metroid Prime Remaster. It is glorious. Is it not? Is it not glorious? Yeah. Yeah. It is glorious. 10,000 Noodle says, Andres, do a second video. One is not enough. Listen, I said I would do one video and keep my word, right? But, hold on. It's not as bad as it might think, okay? I personally believe that the information in the art book, spoilers, whatever, right? I think that information will become public relatively soon. This is just my own personal speculation. I don't know. But I'm assuming that there will be a playable demo for Tears of the Kingdom at PAX in March. So we're less than a month away from that. And I could be wrong. We'll talk about that too. We'll talk about the PAX thing, if there's going to be a demo or not. But I'm going to say that there is going to be a demo there. And if there's going to be a demo there, whatever kind of information that's considered spoiler now, Nintendo will kind of clear that up. They'll clear that up officially soon. So that aside, right? Like I think whatever information people want me to talk about from that thing, like it's not even gonna be relevant anymore. Is the first point. But the second point, and perhaps the more meaningful point, let me double check my stream health. Okay, it looks like it's okay. All right, let me know if everything's looking and sounding okay, guys. But the second point in relation to like Zelda content, I feel pretty good about some theories coming for Tears of the Kingdom. Like, listen, I said it when the Direct happened, when we talked about the things initially from the Direct. I still think we're just scratching the surface. I got a video in mind. I personally think it's even more hype than what we talked about yesterday. I think the next theory video that's coming out is gonna be freaking awesome. It's just that's just what I think, right? Obviously, you know, it's my own video that I'm working on. I'm still concepting. Maybe there'll be something else that comes out before then, but yeah, I think there's a lot more to Tears of the Kingdom that we've yet to decipher and speculate on. So not really worried. I mean, heck, we got DLC stuff to talk about today, so we're gonna be speculating on that a little bit. We're also gonna be talking about this new potential leak / rumor for Nintendo Switch 2 or some sort of Switch hardware coming out the end of this year, alongside with giving you my thoughts on the Pokémon Presents. So that is the general plan for the evening. We're going to be talking about that, and I'll be going through the chat. This is going to be more of a focused Q&A kind of thing because, again, Mike's power went out, so it's just me. Maybe I could call someone in. Like, I'm not saying I can't, but I don't, you know, I'm already live, so I'm not sure. I am not sure. Let me see if Shifty's available. I sent him a message. Maybe he'll respond. Maybe I'll add Shifty so I have someone to kind of bounce ideas off live. But let's look here. What do you guys got to say? Hello there, Joy CJ. JR Otolki. I bet my sister to get hammer on stream is looking a bit better now. A little, but it's fine. Now, we still got a lot to talk about. Thank you, Cooldown. Hello there, Tyler Bakia. Paul didn't add me. You ever think Nintendo on purpose that Nintendo on purpose is stuff to hype stuff up? Like are you asking if they leak stuff on purpose? That's tricky. That is tricky. It's very tricky. Do they leak stuff on purpose? I wish I could tell you with confidence that I think they do or that I think they don't. I honestly am not sure. I'll tell you that in general, sometimes leaks happen on purpose. Leaks happen on purpose. It's called leak bait. So what leak bait is basically a company putting out information out there intentionally in order to see where the leaks are coming from. It functions pretty much like, so let's say you have a flat tire. What people will do to figure out where the flat is in a tire is they'll take the tire out and they'll put it in a bucket of water, a big bucket of water to fit a tire, and they'll see where the air bubbles come out. So they'll see where the leak is, right? Where the air leak is. So it's kind of the same way when it comes to leaks in the game industry. So you put out a fake leak, and then you can see, and then if the fake leak gets out there, then you know the small group in your building that you provide that leak to, that's where it's coming from. So you know someone in that department is a leaker. And that exists. That's out there. Leak bait. So if that exists, is it possible Nintendo's put out things in the past That's hard to say because also Nintendo partners a lot of companies too, right? So sometimes when rumors come out or leaks come out and they're somewhat valid, it might have something to do with the partner, not Nintendo. I feel that when it comes to specifically Nintendo, they're very close. Like it's very hard for anything to get out. But what happens is that what you'll find, at least by my perception of things, is that usually when something gets out ahead of time, it's because it's involved with something that's outside of Japan, outside of Nintendo of Japan. So, for example, like 3D All Stars, right? 3D All Stars wasn't made by Nintendo; it was put together by a different studio. I think the studio was a small team in Europe. I could be mixing it up, but it wasn't an internal Nintendo project. And that's what you'll kind of find, is that usually the things that get rumored beforehand aren't major Nintendo projects. Or in the case of the art book, Nintendo partnered with a company to make that art book. So the fact the art book got out there probably has to do with the company and not Nintendo, right? So that all said, I'm not sure if Nintendo intentionally leaks things. To tell you the truth, like I would say that this art book was not an accident. Was definitely an accident, or rather, it wasn't intentionally done by Nintendo. I don't think that. I think that they were pretty content with the amount of information they shared during the Direct, and they have other plans to talk about Tears of the Kingdom in the not so distant future. I think at this point they've made it clear that they're going the route of being very quiet about Tears of the Kingdom, being sparse of details, and let that secrecy sort of fuel the fire, which is what it's been doing. So, there you go. I don't think the art book situation helped or took away from the potential success for Tears of the Kingdom. I think, I think some people are upset about it internally. That's what I've heard. Because, it's something you take time to put together, and you want to treat those who get the collector's edition. And then Nintendo has made an effort to be quiet about Tears of the Kingdom. So when information gets out, that's upsetting because they've wanted to be quiet. One, I think, because I think the secrecy fuels the hype a little bit, especially in terms of like the theories and speculation. But also, they want to surprise people when the game comes out. I think one of the amazing things about Breath of the Wild is that while there was decent coverage for that game, they really didn't show that much of the game until it came out either. Like, the Great Plateau is just a beginning section, and we got so much gameplay footage from that one section, and we had a few other little snippets from around the Hyrule, but very minimal. And there was a couple trailers. Those trailers seemed to show a lot, but in terms of like exploring the world and finding secrets and surprises, they were all over the place. One of the big things about Breath of the Wild when it came out is that people were playing the game and making all sorts of crazy discoveries. Like, we didn't find out until later that, we didn't find out till the game came out that dragons were in the game. Like, it was crazy. Like, I remember people hearing, "Oh yeah, there's dragons." I'm like, "Wait, no, I don't believe that. I don't believe it." But there are dragons, but there's the 3. So yeah, it's just kind of cool how there were surprises like that. It was cool. So with Tears of the Kingdom, they probably want to match that. So they are being very sparse with the details. I think the biggest difference, the more I think on it now, we haven't had like as significant of a trailer. We've also had more teases for Tears of the Kingdom than Breath of the Wild, I would argue. But I would think the biggest difference is that we haven't had like a playable demo yet, right? So that's what I think we're really waiting on, and hopefully, we get that at PAX this March. Which I'll get to that. Well, hold on, let me see. Let me see something here. I got a message from someone. Yeah, Charles, if you want to join in for a little bit, let's go for it. We can do a call-in segment. Yeah, give me a few minutes here. Let me talk about this part. Well, yeah, let me get the chat and I'll call you in a few minutes. I'm assuming you're still watching live, but yeah. Oh yeah, Joystick could come in too. That'd be fun. Yeah, so let me finish this thought here. I'll check in the chat with a little bit, and I'll see if we can add a couple people. So the Pax situation. I think this is gonna be a playable demo. I don't know, right? But I'm willing to kind of bank on there being a playable demo. So okay, so Nintendo has confirmed that they're going to be at PAX, okay? And there is a history of Nintendo having, like, nice, significant booths at PAX. Like, they had one for Animal Crossing. And if I remember correctly, there was a major Animal Crossing Direct into February, and the game came out in March, but they also had Animal Crossing at PAX then as well. So I believe PAX Boston, PAX East 2020 was a major Animal Crossing booth. Yes. There was. That's what happened. Okay, cool. So anyways, you know, with that in mind, right, if Nintendo is willing to have like a whole dedicated booth to Animal Crossing and have playable demos of that, same should apply for Tears of the Kingdom. It really shouldn't be any different. So I think that there's a really good chance it's there. I mean, what other event would they do it before release? It comes out May 12th. So the end of March is about as good of a time as any. And then the Mario movie comes out early April, so like, you know, that's gonna take up some promotional space from Nintendo. So I think there's a good chance. And then when you think about the other games that are known, Bayonetta Origins will have already been out by the time PAX comes around. And Bayonetta Origins, I would definitely put it in like one of the smaller categories in terms of like worth, you know, having a big sort of focus on at PAX. And there's Advance Wars, which I also would put in that category as much as I want Advance Wars. There's that, but that does come out in April, so it would feel a bit better. So, I mean, I'll just say I think it'll be a little strange if we go to PAX next month and it's literally just Advance Wars. You could argue, well, what about Pikmin 4? That comes out July. Sure, yeah, I mean, Pikmin 4 maybe, but if they're going to do Pikmin 4, how could they not do Tears of the Kingdom, which comes out sooner and is a bigger deal? So, I think there's a really good chance Tears of the Kingdom is going to be there. And with that in mind, with Tears of the Kingdom, I think likely to be at the event, PAX, you know, just like, what, basically like 3 weeks from now? 3.5 weeks from now, something like that. They're going to have to talk about it beforehand. I think it's going to be strange for us to just go to PAX and all of a sudden we start getting demos without any sort of extra explanation or anything like that. So that's why, you know, I put out that video early at the end of last week talking about how I think there's going to be a direct sooner than expected, because I was actually initially expecting it for it to happen early April, because you look at the Splatoon Direct, you look at the Xenoblade Direct, those happened a month beforehand. But when you consider that there's PAX happening at the end of March and that there may be a playable demo, I think it makes sense to kind of have that presentation, have that explanation about the game happen before. And I know some people say, well, we just got a Pokemon Presents now, and there's a Mario movie Direct next week. Yeah, you're right, there is. But also, they also just had a Direct February 8th, right? So they had a February 8th Direct, and they had a Pokemon Presents. The 2 Directs in a month is not really too crazy. And a Mario movie Direct isn't even about a game. It's about a movie, and it's far smaller. And I'm talking about a Zelda Direct happening not the same week, like 2 or 3 weeks later. So like 2 weeks. 2 weeks later. Maybe 3. They could do it the week of. But anyways, that's my case there, that there's plenty of time to do a direct in March. Like, there's plenty of space. They're not really taking away from the Mario movie by doing that. If you do it in the second or third week of March, if you do it in the third week of March, I think is ideal, because it spaces it away from the Mario movie direct, but also a few weeks before the Mario movie direct. If they're gonna have Zelda a playable demo at PAX, I think you need to talk about it beforehand. And if it's not a direct, maybe it's like another trailer. Maybe it's an overview trailer or something. There's got to be something that comes out from Nintendo to talk about Tears of the Kingdom. Obviously, this is my speculation, but I feel like the reasoning is sound. So, you know, I definitely think something's coming soon. All right. Let's do an earlier call-in segment. Let's see. All right, I'll catch up with the chat first, and then I'll see what we can do. All right, moving on to the chat. If you at me, I'm more likely to get to your question or point. Adam Rowan, have you played Octopath Traveler 2? I have not played Octopath Traveler 2. Yeah, guys, if you could like the stream, that would be super appreciated. Definitely, got about 90 people watching, so if we could get that up, we're at 30 likes. It would be super helpful. Get it out to more people. Thank you for pointing that out, DW for Smash. Super appreciated. Let's see here. Oh, that's a good question. James, is a new console a Switch Pro or a whole new separate console? What do you think? All right. All right, so let's have this topic. Let's have this topic. All right. So, let's have this topic now, and then I'll try and call in Charles for the call-in segment. All right. So let me see if I can pull up the rumor, and we'll extrapolate this, because I've definitely had I've seen differing opinions on the disagreements. Some people coming at me. So let me pull this up first. And again, thank you for Spheromancer who pointed it out to me earlier, because I wouldn't have noticed if he didn't say it to me for a little while, for like another hour or two. The video would have still probably gone out, but it definitely made my day easier. Okay, I got the image here. Very good. Okay. Let me see. One moment. There we go. Pay no attention to the ad at the top. I don't know what's going on here. This is why the channel's for adults, because sometimes look at the internet and there's very weird, rude things. But anyways, just focus on the body of text, please. Anyways, so it says, I am a programmer at a Pokemon outsourcing company. My English is very poor, so I used machine translation to complete this post. The theme of the DLC is Hidden Treasure of Area 0 and Hexagon. Version 1.2 includes dressable clothes as a reward for DLC purchasers. Will include, I can't pronounce this stuff, I tried, Urna Minamo and Tetsu no Saha. These are Paradox Suicune and Paradox Virizion. Not saying them again. Water Dragon, Grass Esper, that's Psychic. A mystery Pokemon with a green mask. Special terrestrial appearance. Third legendary Pokemon is a large blue turtle. We are working on a graphics enhancement patch for the new Nintendo Switch models that will be released alongside DLC 2. Okay, I'm going to take this off just because of the rude stuff that's on there. Let me get back to my face cam. Alright, but I felt I should at least read that out to you guys, and I'm going to go point this all out piece by piece. Okay, we're not talking about the presents yet. We're just talking about how this person on February 24th, that was a few days ago, the presents was this morning, so they talked about a whole bunch of details in this piece that proved to be true in the direct. So, the name of the DLC, Hidden Treasure of Area Zero, that's correct. There is hexagon imagery, that is correct. Version 1.2, which we already knew was coming, but still, that's correct. But it including dressable clothes as a reward for DLC purchasers, correct. Them showing off Paradox Suicune and Paradox Virizion, correct. Their types being Water Dragon and Grass Psychic, correct. A mystery Pokemon with a green mask, correct. The other legendary being the large blue turtle that we've seen as a part of the art, but not like the way they showed it in the trailer, correct. So all of that, they detailed all the significant points of the DLC update for Scarlet and Violet. 100%. So this adds, I would say, a great deal of validity to what they're saying. Now some of you say, oh, this is from 4chan, how could you take that seriously? Do you see how much they got right? They knew everything. But I'll tell you, oftentimes you'll see a lot of people putting out information saying that they have inside information, and they'll put out a random list. They'll put out a random list, and a lot of people do that. So what happens is, because so many people do it, someone's bound to be right, and the person that is right, they're the ones that get attention, right? Like I think there is something to that idea. However, the more and more details that they say in this post that are legit, the less and less likely it is that this is just a coincidence and someone got lucky and that just happened that because it was correct that it became popular and we noticed it. If it's like one or two things, yes, like it could just be lucky guesses and it got picked up on because it was right. But when we're talking about every single detail and not one thing being wrong, the odds of that become incredibly low for it just being a prediction. So, in my mind, this is 100% someone who has legitimate information. Now, so that brings us to this last part here. That's the big story. We are working on a graphics enhancement patch for the new Nintendo Switch models that will be released alongside DLC 2. DLC 2 is the second wave of the two. So, a graphics enhancement patch for new Nintendo Switch models. So, I saw this and I was like, holy crap, Nintendo Switch 2 is happening and maybe this year. Holy smokes. Like, that was definitely like my first thought. And I'm open to saying, hey, look, I might have some confirmation bias here. Because there's something I kind of want to happen. I see evidence for and I jump on it. But I'll also tell you this. I've already moved on from believing Switch 2 would happen this year. I may make mention of it as a possibility just because I like to cover my bases and discuss different options. Because I like to look at things from different angles. But I've already accepted it's probably a 2024 release. I've accepted that. So, what I'm trying to tell you is that, personally, I don't think my confirmation bias is very strong here. I think I just read it and I saw what was the most likely interpretation, that this is alluding to a more powerful system and that they're enhancing the second update for Scarlet and Violet to match that, which I think makes sense. Look at Sony and Microsoft. A lot of their games that were current gen, they get performance patches and graphical boost patches. Like, this isn't anything crazy. But for them to be working and planning a graphical enhancement for just a Switch OLED or a Switch Lite, which is what some people are saying this is, I don't really think that makes any sense. Like, at all. Are they trying to improve the visuals in Scarlet and Violet, as they kind of like, try and optimize? Yeah, I bet they are to some extent. But I really don't think that they're out here working extra overtime for free to just get a graphics enhancement patch in Scarlet and Violet. I don't think that's what they're trying to do at all. They may be working on performance things just so the game runs better, so it's not a buggy mess, so people don't ask for a return until they buy the game. But I don't think they're trying to, just for free, add a graphics enhancement patch to the DLC alongside a second new OLED model that's themed off of the DLC a year removed from the other OLED that just came out. I really don't think that's more likely at all. Like, is it possible? Yes, it's possible they may be working on a visual enhancement patch. It is possible. Is it possible that they could have a second Pokemon OLED the year afterwards themed off the DLC? Yes, it's possible. Do I think that's likely, though? I do not think that's likely, though. I think the most fair and reasonable interpretation of this is that they are working on a visual enhancement for more powerful hardware. That, according to this person, is releasing alongside DLC 2. But let's also keep in mind, this person may be making assumptions from what they're doing. They may not understand the full picture. They may assume that what they're working on is going to be used for the second DLC as a part of a more powerful Switch, but they may not really have a good read on the timing. That's also possible, right? There could be assumptions there. But given that they were right about the entire DLC, I feel like it absolutely is worthy of having the conversation. We're having that conversation. And is it really that crazy? By the way, the reason why it's suggesting Switch 2 comes out at the end of 2023 is because DLC 2 is winter 2023. Winter 2023 basically means like the end of November or December. That's the implication, but yeah, I think there's some room for interpretation there where that can maybe push into the beginning of the year. Let's say deadline March, the close of the fiscal year. Like, so there's maybe wiggle room. So maybe it's like early 2024 instead of late 2023, assuming this is 100% correct. Anyway, I think that there is definitely something to say here with this. I think it is most likely referring to a new system. I just don't see how this can be a light or an OLED. I don't think you work on a graphics enhancement patch just for the sake, just for it. Like, if you want to argue that is a graphics enhancement patch just for DLC 2, and okay, so let's consider that. I think that there may be a way that this kind of makes sense as for not Switch 2. So, and maybe the wording is just weird, because when you call it a patch, that suggests that you're improving the overall game. But if they're just responsible for working on the visuals in DLC 2, maybe that's what they're referring to, and then that comes out with a new Switch model, but a new Switch model isn't a more powerful system, it's just like another light, maybe a light with an OLED, or maybe just another themed edition. But again, I think expecting another Pokemon OLED is really unlikely. I think I also think interpreting that graphics enhancement patch is just him working on the graphics for DLC 2, I also think is assuming that what we're reading is incorrect. Like, that's making the assumption that what they're saying is a little off there. I think that this is, yeah, I mean, I stand by my initial interpretation. Now, something that people are saying or suggesting is that instead of it being a Switch 2, maybe it's a Switch Pro or a Switch 4K, which would have improved visuals. So a Switch revision that has improved performance or visuals, but not quite a Switch 2. I personally don't really... What's the difference? I guess I just... What year is it? I don't know why I checked my phone to get the year. It says 8/38. We're talking about, we're in 2023. Switch came out 2017, right? We're about to enjoy the 6-year anniversary of Switch, entering the 7th year. come winter 2023, the Switch will have been out for more than 6.5 years. So 6.5 years into a system's life cycle, we're still speculating that it's going to be a mid-gen refresh, implying there would be like another 3 years before the next Switch comes out. Then like the actual true successor. I just don't think that's likely. I think we're getting the next system is the next system. Is it possible that they have like a 2-year turnaround and we get like a mid-gen refresh now at the end of 2023, and then come holiday 2025 they release a new system? Like, they could do that, but I feel that would be not the best way to go about things from Nintendo. Like, Sony and Microsoft didn't have a 2-year turnaround for their mid-gen refreshes. Like, that's too short. So I just don't think they're gonna do that. I think also just a mid-gen refresh doesn't really do much for them. But also, if that's what it is, for me, it's gonna basically be the same difference. It's gonna be a new Switch that will perform better and will have better visuals. So call it Switch 2, call it Switch Pro. We're just kind of like, we're nitpicking the name here at that point. So I don't know. I stand by my interpretation of what it is suggesting. I do believe. So I feel pretty confident in my interpretation of the information, but that doesn't mean that information is 100% correct. It could be the case that while that person did have a no on the DLC information, maybe they added in that last thing there just to get some attention. So it's, just because one part is right doesn't mean the other part is right. But because of how consistent everything else is there, I am inclined to believe there's something to this. But also, we're pretty far out. Plans can change. Maybe they are considering working on a visual enhancement patch for a more powerful system. But that doesn't mean it's going to happen. It might be something that's totally canned. There are tons of projects that are always in the works that are canned, that never see the light of day. So even if this person's 100% telling us like legitimate information, even if that's the case, it still might not happen. So, you gotta take it with a grain of salt regardless. You absolutely do. That said, this is exciting. If true. I think this could be a big deal. A big deal. Yeah. So, let me check in the chat here. Jesse Beholder, new Switch better be coming end of 2023, or I'm getting a PS5. Uh-oh. Garashad, do you think Nintendo could reveal a Switch 2 at PAX like as a surprise? That would be shocking. That would be shocking. Jesse Beholder, graphics enhancement sounds very unlikely for Game Freak. Yeah. That's another point. Like, why would we expect them to be working on a graphics enhancement for systems with the same specs? I think, if they're working on a graphics enhancement patch, the implication is that a more powerful system is coming out. Generi, with current tech, chip enhancement is possible, but I guess they are optimizing and balancing cheap and playability. Deebus, thinking out of the box, what if it's for a Nintendo Play Store for PCs to have better resolutions and Nintendo branches to allow some games on PC after original release? If that's what was happening, I think that would that could maybe be what this person's alluding to without realizing it. Maybe, but I also don't believe that Nintendo would ever branch out to PC. So I'm not going to say that's 100% wrong, but I would say probably not what's going to happen. But it's definitely a good idea. Like you said, you were thinking out of the box, and that would be unexpected for Nintendo to do, but it would kind of answer to it would sort of fill in the holes a little bit. Hey, Nintendo Prime, what's up, buddy? Charles Trudell, Xbox had a 3 years turnaround. Exactly, a 3-year turnaround. So I just don't see how they would do that this late into the Switch's life cycle. Give us a mid-gen refresh so late. I personally don't really see that happening. Okay, I missed a super chat here. A couple, actually. All right. DLW for Smash maintaining their membership. Thank you very much for maintaining your membership. Super appreciated, buddy. Thank you. Kukola with the super chat here. Do you think the online functionality in Tears of the Kingdom has something to do with Yumi's? I'm not sure I'm familiar with Yumi's. Let me Google that really quick here. Yumi's. What is a Yumi's? I don't know what this is. So yeah, I might need a little bit more clarity on what that is, because I'm not sure. Like, is it like a mod of some kind? I'm seeing people here saying that Breath of the Wild's NPCs are basically just Mii's. I'll get to the Tears of the Kingdom DLC in a bit. Zelda's Geek Apprentice with another super chat. Thank you very much for the super chat, Zelda's Geek Apprentice. New dock for the Switch OLED model. That's an interesting question too. So the OLED got. So I guess what you're suggesting is we get a new dock instead of a new Switch per se, and that's more powerful. So that would explain for the graphics enhancement without us getting a new system. Maybe, you know, that's a possibility. I don't really think that's super likely though. You know, I feel like if Nintendo's gonna release something, it's gonna be a new Switch revision. So that's what I think. Also, Nintendo's maintained kind of like a 2-year pattern for new systems. So, you know, 2017 Switch, 2019 Switch Lite, 2021 OLED. It would make sense to have a new something in 2023. If it's just a dock, I mean, maybe, but I would say most likely it would be more than just a dock. Yeah, like how many people are just gonna buy a dock, you know? Depending on how expensive it is. Yeah, that would matter. Alright, so cool, I see you explained Yumi's. The NPCs in the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild use an advanced version of the Mii format. This means that with mod you can inject Mii's into the game. Okay. Alright, so I was actually not that far off. Alright. Let's see. So it would be interesting if they were to kind of have like Mii functionality inside Tears of the Kingdom. I don't think that the paid DLC will have anything to do with that. I'm not saying that can't be a functionality. Maybe they could do something like that. That would be kind of neat, actually. It would be a nice, neat little thing of all the Mii's in your system would be random NPCs in the world. Like, I think that would actually be really cool. I also think that Mii's are not really something that people mess around with too much nowadays. So I'm not sure how much of a focus they would even give that. But I could see that as being just kind of like a random little thing, but nothing super substantial. It wouldn't be like, hey, this is, you know, what we're doing. You know, this is our big online functionality. I think the Tears of the Kingdom DLC is going to be something a little bit more extensive than that. Let's see here. Okay. Let me see if I'll see if I can add in Charles now for I'll do the call-in segment a little bit earlier. Cool. All right, I'm gonna give Charles a call. One moment, guys. Let me set this up real quick. And Charles is a member, so yeah, we do call-in segments for members. One moment here while I'll give him a call. I gotta open up Discord real quick. Hold on. Okay. Alright, let's try calling. Yeah, let me know if you can hear me.
I hear you quite well.
Oh, cool. Well, thanks for coming on, Charles.
I can even show my face if you want.
Well, the way I have it set up, because I already have my camera set up here, I can't reset it, so we could just do audio for now.
It's perfect.
Yeah. Next time, if we plan something ahead of time, I could set it up so I could put the camera on. But
yeah, but it's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
Like
cool.
I don't want you to literally reset all your setup because I know how long it takes.
I think I would have to reset the stream, so we're good.
Exactly. Let's not do that.
No. So. And you guys can hear Charles well, looks like.
Yeah, it seems people already hear me, so that's fine.
Okay, cool. All right, so was there something in particular you wanted to bring up? I did want to kind of eventually get to the Tears of the Kingdom DLC, but like, what do you make of the of this Switch 2?
The first subject we had tonight. So the first subject we had tonight is, of course, the next possible hardware. And I find it funny that if you go into detail into the rumor we have right now, there is one thing that spits out to me, and it's someone that told me, I don't know if it's true, like, it's still part of the rumor.
Sure.
But supposedly that second DLC of Pokemon is only said to be released during winter.
Yeah.
So, well, winter is very vague. Do they mean end of October to December with this? Or do you mean end of December to March with this?
Right. Yeah, it's a good observation to make. Something else I noticed is that with Sword and Shield, and I double checked this, the release timings were for summer and fall.
Exactly. So
this is different. This is summer and winter. Oh, I'm sorry. It's fall and winter. So
and that makes sense because those two DLCs will probably be bigger because Sword and Shield was much smaller in scope. So I imagine if they do two DLCs where they try to make average big region, like for example Xenoblade Chronicle 2. In terms of ambition, it's quite possible the two DLC that they are preparing for Pokemon. Yes, no way it will be the same graphical quality. Let's scrap that to begin with. It's not going to be stellar on the graphical department. But in terms of ambition, of how much the region is big, I'm awaiting tutorials. And if they are making tutorials, well, that's why, first of all, the DLC is more expensive. It's $35 this time.
You know, I didn't even pay attention to the price. So the price for the Scarlet and Violet expansion pass is $34.99 then USD.
Yeah.
That is
for the both of them. And it was 30 in the first. But also, for Sword and Shield, the first region was much smaller than the second one. And the fact that the first DLC only comes in fall this time, that tells me both of them will probably be bigger.
Yeah, you know, that could be. I mean, I think that makes sense. You know, something I wanted to point out, you know, going back to the leak itself, right, or the rumor, is that it's another little detail that the leak got right, because it knew about the timing, right, the winter timing. Winter didn't happen for Sword and Shield. That wasn't the timing then. They changed the timing. So, you know, if they were to just be predicting, the fact that they also got the timing right, that they thought it would be, the DLC 2 would be coming out in winter, like that supports, it supports the leak a little bit more. It's another detail.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now, the conclusion we can have with this is launch of the new system, basically for the 7th anniversary.
Say that one more time. I missed the stream picked up on me.
Yeah, it's perfect. So basically, the launch of the new system for the end of the 7th anniversary. Exactly when the Switch gets 7 years old. That's when we get the DLC and the new platform.
So you're saying it would come out next March?
That would still be winter. And since the last time their fall Pokemon DLC was in November, I mean, it's basically in that range of February and March then. Since they said winter, but like the first one is already in fall. So the first one has a high probability to be October or November. That means the second DLC is not coming before February next year. Like, if we already just delay everything by 3 months, because they seem to just do that.
Yeah.
The maths make sense, and also, if we want to compare with the rest of the industry, well, the rest of the industry had 7-year lifetime. The Xbox One, the PS4 were 7 years on the market.
Yeah. You know, I'll say that.
Yeah, you want.
Yeah. No. What I was gonna say that. Well, I think this information does support the idea of maybe a March release, right? I personally, I would find it a little strange. And it could be, right? It could come out in March. I'm not saying it won't, but I guess where I just sort of think it would be strange, and you know, Nintendo just does strange things sometimes. It's that
all the time. Anyway.
Why not just come out for the holiday where sales are stronger? You know?
It's true that they delayed the Switch from 2016 to 2017.
Yes.
Because they were in an obligation to do that, not because they wanted.
Yeah.
But the fact that the first rumor we have of them negotiating for mass production is end of January, and that means there's no contract signed for this mass production. It all comes down on how many months will they take to make that mass production and how much shortage they can accept to have at launch. Because I'm pretty sure if you don't want shortage of that new system, you want at least 10 months of mass production. And we're starting to be really short on time if they didn't finish their negotiation right now.
Yeah.
To be fitting into the year.
Yeah. Now I'll say that like sometimes I feel that we're not always totally privy to what exactly is happening behind the scenes, right? Like they could have potentially entered production sooner and we don't know, right? Like this information isn't supposed to be public, technically.
No, exactly. You can't just completely fuck them up there. I don't know why.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when I heard that rumor, that wasn't a rumor, it was a report, literally. I was like, I'm pretty sure Nikki is no longer having any kind of deal with Nintendo for the next 5-6 years now.
Yeah, I mean, Nikkei was saying mid-2024, so, I mean, it's interesting if that's what happens. I see I got a super chat here.
Yeah, go on.
From Samuel A. Thank you very much for the super chat, buddy. Samuel A. says, I'm a little late. What did you miss? Not much. So, we were initially going to do the podcast, but with Mike, but his power went out right before the stream, so couldn't do that. And you know, I just did some talking. Right now we're talking about Switch 2. We're gonna talk about some DLC. You know, Charles coming in for a little bit, and that's kind of where we're at. But let me just kind of go through the chat here. Let me see a few things that are being said. Let's see. James Adamy, do you think Tears of the Kingdom will actually have old school dungeons, or will they half-ass it like they did with the Shrines and Beasts? So, I put out a video last Monday, kind of talking about what I think of the dungeon situation in Tears of the Kingdom, and I think that they've shown enough evidence in Tears of the Kingdom to suggest that they're going a little bit more grand, a little bit more grandiose, a little bit more epic. So what I think that implies is that we are going to have some dungeon-like challenges that will at least be larger in scale. I mean, you look at the islands, there's all sorts of shapes out there. Like, they're not all the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
the exterior is very varied.
Exactly. They're highly varied. Absolutely.
And we already see 3 types of caves already in the trailers.
Let's see.
And I'm saying the trailers, we see 3 types of caves.
Right.
Not the same time at all.
Right. So
that's also something else.
When you say 3 caves, right? So we have the
3 types. So we don't even know how many types. We only know already that there's multiple.
So when you say the 3, though, so you're referring to one of them is when the bokoblins are mining, where there's like a lot of mushrooms, and we see like the little spirits. The other is the cave where Link's getting chased by a Hinox, right?
Yeah, that seems more at the surface level.
Yeah, and then is the third one where you're from the teaser trailer?
One of them has you fighting a monster on the ground, but we're certainly not at the same place where the Inox was, and we're even less so at the mine place.
You're talking about the big worm thing when Link has the flame shield.
I think I am talking about that, but there's also a second scene that seems similar to that one. I wouldn't be surprised if it's not the same scene. Yeah. So that's why I'm saying, for now we have probably the confirmation of 3 different types of caves, and not the same ambition by cave. I mean, some of them are way bigger than others.
Yeah.
And just that tells me there will be a lot of stuff that will be probably more interesting to solve and to explore than in the first game of the series. Because we can call this a kind of new Zelda series for how different it is than the precedent ones.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think there's different underground areas, and so I mentioned earlier about like theory videos for Tears of the Kingdom, and I mentioned that there's this video that I'm starting to conceptualize. It has something to do with this idea that I think there's more to the underground. I think there's more to the sky.
The sky, like you said, is the exterior that kind of proves it. I mean, there's a freaking sphere, not unlike the Death Star.
It looks like a moon. It looks like
also
a moon.
It looks like a moon, but like there's also a little crevasse on it at one point that we see in the trailer, and that's where I'm saying this is clearly influenced by the Death Star. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Star Wars is popular even in Japan, so that would make sense that they are influenced by this.
Yeah, it would be. It would be interesting. It would be really interesting if you can break it. Like, what if it actually like explodes and like different pieces kind of like go out into the sky or to the ground?
You finish that dungeon by exploding it, and in the end, that changes stuff in the rest of the map. And you then need to go at these different spots to collect something. That would be interesting if they actually do that. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, just going through the chat here.
Yeah, go on.
I see Heroic Age added me. My main worry about the next console is that the marketing will not differentiate it enough from the original Switch, potentially creating another Wii U situation for casuals. And, I definitely kind of share your concern there, because I've sort of just kind of been definitely hoping, campaigning for Nintendo to just call it Nintendo Switch 2. Why? I think that the Switch formula is the ideal formula for Nintendo. I think they struck gold. I think it's far better than the Wii situation.
Yeah,
I think they got to stick with it. You look at Sony, PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4, PS5. It works. It doesn't have to be complicated. Put
and
a
for
number,
Nintendo
people will
this
know.
time,
Go on.
I'm going to just explain to you something. I'm pretty sure that this time it makes sense to go with Switch 2. During the Wii, it wouldn't have made sense because the Wii was already dying down back then. Like already in 2010, the idea behind the Wii wasn't the driving force anymore for the console numbers and everything. Whereas right now with the Switch, everyone wants a better handle than what we have right now. Literal everyone. They are asking Sony. They are asking for Valve to do more than only the Steam Deck. Already. Even if the Steam Deck is only 1 year old. And me, I'm looking at all this and I'm like, if Nintendo doesn't do a second platform like the Switch, they let so much money and market share on the table, it's insane. So for that single reason, I would say, indeed, Switch 2 is the greatest idea.
Yeah.
Now, will they do this? Or will they do something so convoluted that nobody will understand? That's the issue.
Yeah, so I mean, it's interesting because I mean, at the end of the day, Nintendo's a business, right? So they need to do what makes business sense. And, you know, sometimes what we think makes business sense is not what they decide makes business sense. So, you know, there's always room for, well, they're going to surprise us, right? But typically, when Nintendo has a very successful system, the successor to that system follows that same line of thinking. And if that second system starts to underperform, then they move in a different direction, right? So you had the NES, then the Super NES. They followed the same sort of line of thought there. Then they had the Game Boy Color, but the Game Boy Advance wasn't performing as well. They moved on to the DS. Although at first they sort of brought up as maybe a third pillar, but it was a successor to the Advance. But then, you know, they went with the N64, and that you know they did the game because they were trending in a poor direction. So then they did the Wii. The Wii was super successful. So then they went for another one. They went for the Wii.
We need to say that for the Wii and the DS, the president at that moment in time actually hired Iwata as his replacement. Because they have seen the fact that the sales number were going down and down and down over years. Right. And they know at that moment, we need to innovate. We need to change. Absolutely. We need to make sure that we stay relevant in this industry.
That's a great
And you, sire, you're a freaking genius. So I'm letting the reign of my company to you. And Iwata just said yes.
Yeah, and they introduced the Blue Ocean strategy, right? So they stopped trying to compete directly with Sony and Microsoft, and they started doing their own thing. And so we got the Wii and the DS. And the DS, you know, they did the 3DS, right? So the Wii was successful, so they did the Wii U. The DS was successful, so they did the 3DS. 3DS was okay in terms of numbers overall. Wii was a complete bomb. But the point is that Nintendo does have a history of following
doing
up
two
with,
things and changing.
Yeah. Now, I'm
and
beginning
they will
a campaign.
Keep that, I'm pretty sure.
Well, I hope not. I hope that I hope they just continue doing Switch, but I mean, we'll see, right?
It depends if the second Switch perform as well. Like, if they don't fail at their marketing, nothing tells us right now that the new Switch system won't perform well. But it could. So because that's the point of the GameCube. It was a better N64 in all ways. Literally all ways. And still, it crashed and burned very close to the Wii U numbers nonetheless. So that tells me one thing. Having a direct successor that do most of the stuff that the preceding one was doing is not necessarily a recipe for success.
Yeah.
But I will be surprised if it's the case this time.
Because, I mean, how often has Nintendo followed up a system and then done better?
Very rare. Very rare.
Right. So, I mean, I think there's something to that thinking, but there's a couple things to keep in mind with Switch. With Switch, they've never had this much momentum this late into the game before.
Yeah, no, exactly. Nintendo never had momentum even during its 6th year on the market for a given platform.
Right.
The 5th year was already a year where the numbers were down.
Yeah.
And the 6th year, they sold less than 10 million all the time. This time they sold more than 50 million in their 6 years. This is insane. Like, obviously people still want that kind of hardware, and that's where we're both saying having just an upgrade to this hardware normally should be fine. Normally should give them the momentum back, and normally could sell these sales for another 7 years again.
Yeah, I think that we could, we could be looking at our 7 years of Switch 2, like that could happen. I think what the interesting thing about the Switch formula is that they have a lot of room to innovate, right? Like you have Nintendo Labo, you have Ring Fit Adventure, so they could do little things like that.
I'm just saying also, while we're at it, because with Labo, the only problem of Labo VR, I mean the strap, well, it's easy to correct, they will probably correct it. But the major problem that they couldn't solve with Labo VR 1 was the power of the Switch itself, which a successor won't have. Meaning, accessible VR for 120.
Yeah. I mean, and I do like the idea.
Like this.
Go on.
Just thinking it like this. Accessible VR experience of the quality of even better probably than what the PS4 was able to, but a third of the price than the PSVR. This can actually work with the mass market. And I would be surprised if they try it, but that's not out of the possibility, and I think it can work.
Yeah, no, I actually agree with you, right? Like I think with Switch, because it's cheap, there's a potential formula there where they could come at VR and make it a little bit more accessible, a little bit more mainstream than what Sony has done, and they may find more success. Now, there's gonna be a sacrifice, right? People are gonna be like, oh, well, the Switch VR is not as high quality as the Sony VR, but it's gonna work.
Yeah, but it's also a fifth of the price, so.
Right. It's going to be a lot cheaper, and it's going to be accessible, and it's going to get the job done if they decide to do it. They may not. I mean, one of the reasons they haven't done it is because it hasn't been feasible, really do it in a reasonable way. But if with this next generation becomes possible, then they'll go for it. So yeah, I absolutely, I think they could go in that direction. And
yes, there's a comment on the chat. Coca-Cola L3, Tears of the Kingdom in VR. The same thing they did with Breath of the Wild, but this time with a Switch that's actually capable of having a big enough resolution to make it worth it.
Yeah. Tears of the Kingdom in VR would be crazy. Imagine fighting a Gleeok.
They wouldn't even need to make that much work for it to work, because that's the point of Labo VR. It was just taking the Switch as is. That's why I'm saying, if their next platform is powerful enough, and they try it again, it may explode, because we're not talking about a $200 device. We're talking a $100 device with the Switch itself that you need to pay for, of course. Mm-hmm. But like that total cost of basically 500, 600. But you also have like all of the other games that Nintendo is doing, and most of them can have easy updates to be able to be played in VR or AR, like someone else said. I mean, the possibilities are insane now that we have a portable device that's probably a bit better than the Steam Deck.
Yeah, I mean, imagine
all of this
imagine
together,
a new Metroid game or a new Luigi's Mansion game in VR. Like, that would be amazing.
A Metroid game in VR, if they are able to keep the sound effect and everything, we're talking about an experience that no one believes is possible.
It would be very...
Right now, I think nobody's thinking that something like this can happen and be that great.
Yeah, it'd be very cool. So,
Go on. Yeah, go on. I was just saying, at least not at $500 for the VR itself, because that's what's going on with Gran Turismo 7 right now with the PSVR. Like, RGT85 love the experience that he has with Gran Turismo 7, but that's with a $500 device. That's the issue. For having that kind of experience, you need to pay such a high price that most people won't bother. That's the only issue, is the price of entry. It's too high.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Like, for having an experience as good as the Index or PSVR 2, you basically need to pay $1,000.
Right, and then I guess the other thing, right, is because not as many people can play it, any game that's made for VR is not going to sell extremely well because not as many people have it. So then, who's going to spend a really big budget and make a really big game if there isn't going to be a lot of people that are going to buy it, right? So it's kind of like, it's kind of like what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? You need VR to do really well in order to have a really big budget, impressive game for it. So it's a little harder. And
that's where Nintendo can now have a great angle to this. Anyway, that's probably making everything about the Switch 2 for now, right? We have kind of do everything about it. We change the subject.
Well, I wanted to, if there's something you want to talk about, right? I wanted to give you a few minutes to kind of talk about that, and then I would just focus on doing some Q&A to close out the stream on my own afterwards. But is there like a specific topic that you want to talk about?
There is at least a second subject to your stream to begin with, so let's talk about it, and that's the Tears of the Kingdom days.
Sure. Yeah. So, so basically, when we take a look at the Tears of the Kingdom website, let me see if I can share this. Yeah, I'm going to share this with you guys.
Go on.
So take a look at the Tears of the Kingdom website, okay? You look at the website, it's talks about the game, it shows some trailers, it's a digital edition, you got some vouchers, physical edition, collector's edition, compatible with Amiibo. But at the bottom it says a few things. The one thing that people are sort of talking about right now is the 2 asterisks that says full version of game required to use DLC, sold separately. So, the fact, basically when you see something that says full version of game required to use DLC, that means that
there's something else.
Right. That means there's something else, which really shouldn't come as a shock. Now, some people have suggested that these are just asterisks explaining things that may be mentioned throughout here. And like, for example, compatible with Amiibo has 4 asterisks, and we take the 4 paid Nintendo Switch Online membership required at the time of purchase and redemption of Switch game vouchers. How is that related to Amiibo? I don't see how it is.
It's the last one. Just be
that's 3.
compatible with Amiibo 4-star.
Thank you. Yeah, it's 4 stars. So there you go with that. And there's a 3-star one somewhere around here.
You can, of course, Control F and tap star in it, so you will have all the times a star after the screen, since you're in a browser.
Yeah.
That will help you find exactly where the stars are, and so you will be able to make the connection easily.
Yeah. So if I
trying to help you here right now, since it's online with you, I may as well help.
Let's see. If we look for the 3rd one, where are the 3 asterisks? There we go. The title, and that's where it talks about the Switch game vouchers. So there we go. And I don't think we have. Okay.
There is a 3-star down there.
All right. So right here, it mentions the 1st and 2nd asterisk. So digital edition. Buy the digital version and download it directly to your Nintendo Switch system. No code required. Plus earn My Nintendo Gold points. Hence that asterisk. You can use toward more games and DLC. So it's referring to gold points that you can use on games and DLC outside of Tears of the Kingdom. It doesn't just, so when they say here at the bottom, full version of game required to use DLC, they don't mean specifically for Tears of the Kingdom. They just mean for any game on the eShop that has DLC. So technically, there's nothing here that confirms that there is DLC coming to Tears of the Kingdom that's like a paid expansion, because it's just referring to DLC that you need
In
a full
general.
game for. Exactly. That said, I totally think Tears of the Kingdom is gonna have DLC. Like, it's coming.
I mean,
yeah.
Unless, and that would be very interesting, there's no DLC, but that's why the game is 70 instead of 60. Is because they include the DLC in it. And the DLC is only 10. I mean, by that the game is that huge and already has the plan for a DLC included in it. I mean, there's also something else. At the beginning, the game was supposed to come out last year.
Yeah.
Maybe they delayed it for 6 months or 7 months to include the DLC in it instead of selling it later, because they thought, well, this time our DLC is too important for the main game. Like, it's way too huge. Like, we cannot just sell it later on. So we'll include it and we'll sell it for a higher price to begin with. That's also a possibility here. Of course, we don't know, and we'll probably not know before the game release.
Yeah. Yeah. That's tough. It's one of those things where we can't really say for sure. You know,
because the way it's phrasing, you're right. Your analysis with the asterisks in that page clearly point to DLC in general. Because they also talk in the same sentence about the gold points.
Exactly.
And gold points is for anything in the store. So, yeah, not sure.
Yeah. So there's nothing confirming that Tears of the Kingdom is going to have an expansion. But
it will be surprising that there's not.
Right, yeah. I mean, I feel like everyone would buy that. You know?
Yeah, there's at least, like, out of the 20 million that would buy Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
Like, what, 3/4 of that are going to buy the DLC?
So, but let me say this.
Yeah, go on.
In relation to that, right? So, you know how we have this leak suggesting that there's going to be a graphics enhancement patch for Scarlet and Violet when the second wave comes out, right? We presume for a new system.
Yeah,
right?
Because, I mean, if there's none, I mean, they still need to completely finish the performance patch of it. That would probably take another 3 months. So, like, if they aren't finished with the performance patch to begin with, then they work with enhancing graphic already. That doesn't make sense, unless what you said. New order.
Yeah, so, you know, I think that maybe they could have, like, an expansion DLC for Tears of the Kingdom that there may be an enhancement patch that comes out for that down the road that they'll use to market with their next hardware. And the thing is, the window for DLC for Tears of the Kingdom is even further out than Scarlet and Violet, right? So Tears of the Kingdom is coming out in May. They have like a 1.5 year window where they can kind of just like, you know, I mean, they could even take 2 years if they really wanted to handle the DLC for Tears of the Kingdom. Like, they absolutely could. So, but
even more so if a Mario game coming with at the launch of the next system.
Yeah. But you know, what kind of DLC? You know, Charles, before I let you go here, how about you just give me some of your thoughts on, what kind of DLC would you like to see from Tears of the Kingdom?
Well, since we don't know much
about the main game,
the game itself,
yeah.
I'm going to be completely speculative here, in a way that I think even Joy CJ will completely like. So I'm just going to say it like this. So my idea, there are rumors and speculation already about the fact that this game is somewhat completing a cycle linked to the Curse of Demise.
Yeah.
I think the DLC will do exactly that. Complete the cycle. Because indeed, I think the main game will be just moments before the cycle is finished. But not completed yet. And the DLC will complete it.
So kind of like an epilogue story, maybe like a future connected from Xenoblade, where certain events occur that explain for how it becomes Skyward Sword. Like, if it is a cycle, that would be interesting. You know, like, one cool thing in Skyward Sword that I loved, I forget. It's the desert region where they have all the little robots. You can see all these giant, like, colossal robot statues in the background, right? It shows basically like this ancient, technologically advanced civilization. So what if, like, you see, like, just this civilization of robots come into play, and it starts to kind of clearly link, oh, okay, maybe, you know, they can become what we see in Skyward Sword. Like, that would be cool. For sure.
Even more than that, there's also, I already know of another game that finished in a way that we don't know if there is something more going on quite exactly, but the whole ending is kind of weird. Like, there's some pieces missing, but you don't really understand why or how. Kingdom Hearts 3. I'm not getting into the specifics so that I don't spoil anyone here, but Kingdom Hearts 3 ending has word passage into this ending. And these word passage were explained by a DLC. There was a solution to be found because the whole ending.
Were you talking about Kingdom Hearts 3?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Alright.
Yeah. Kingdom Hearts 3 ending is a riddle. But not a riddle that you can know in advance. Like, there's something missing, there's something weird going on in this ending. You know there's something that doesn't work. But you just don't really understand why or how. And then comes a DLC 1 year later that basically told you, yes, it was a riddle. And here's the solution to the riddle that you could have known.
Yeah.
Because yes, all the hints were in the ending.
Yeah.
And I think it's completely possible that Tears of the Kingdom goes into that direction. I think the ending of Tears of the Kingdom, the way it will go, won't really explain the fact that we have completed the cycle. But the DLC will. And it's not because we couldn't have figured it out in advance. There will be enough hints in the main game for us to know that.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at, like, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, especially now, considering what we know now about the DLC, it's very clear they knew that what they wanted to do with the DLC by the time they came out. Like, they knew it was going to be about the founders and that Shulk and Rex would be involved. So, yeah, I mean, maybe you know, there'll be some clues for, like, an epilogue story or something as we play Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah. But, you know, Charles, you know, I'd like to thank you for coming on, you know, help me getting through the cast for a little bit and, you know, sharing your thoughts. Anything else you want to say before I let you go for the night?
No, I'm fine. I hope you enjoyed discussing with me.
Absolutely, Charles.
I'm ready to talk to you whenever you want, man.
All right. Well, yeah, thanks for jumping on. It was very helpful, buddy. I'll talk to you later.
Perfect.
All right.
Have a great time. Bye.
All right. Bye. All right. Yep. Thank you, Charles, again for coming on to help out and chat a little bit with the stream. Charles is a member, right? So members can come in for call-in segments, and we can kind of chat about whatever you want, you know, as long as it's healthy. But yeah. So I want to catch up. I have a few super chats here I want to get to. Then we'll get to the live chat, and then I'll give you a little bit more about some DLC talk. I want to kind of get to. And then we'll close out with my Pokemon Presents thoughts. So DW for Smash just put a cool little, you know, emoji with the cool shades. Thank you very much, buddy. Super appreciated. Brian Doe also with the super chat. Tears of the Kingdom will have a demo like Kirby did. You mean like on the eShop? That would be insane. Like, I mean, like in a cool way, like in an exciting way. So, you know, I would do it. I'll tell you that I feel like people are gonna try their darndest to data mine that. So I don't know if Nintendo will do that, but oh my goodness, if there was a demo, I would play that a lot. Or I guess, do you mean like when the game comes out? Because if when the game comes out, maybe they want to put out a demo because it's $70 just to get more people to give it a try. Maybe, although I feel like they won't. We'll see. But Brian also provided another super chat here. Again, thank you very much. I want to see a DLC where Link gets trapped and Zelda has to go through all of the trials to unlock her true power, not just the base level she has now. You want to see a DLC where Link gets trapped and Zelda has to go through all the trials to unlock her true power, not just the base level she has now. So, you know, I'm actually really glad you brought that up, because I was thinking about kind of talking about something like that too. Like, I could see a scenario where, I mean, Tears of the Kingdom, you play as Link. But, do you guys remember when, in Skyward Sword, if you played Skyward Sword, when you beat the game, the credits show Zelda's adventure. I don't want to say what it is in case you haven't played in the game, but you get to see what Zelda was doing throughout Link's adventure, because she's having her own adventure throughout Skyward Sword. And it's kind of like, oh man, she was having her own challenges. Like, it would have been really cool to kind of play through that. So, in Tears of the Kingdom, at least from what we've been shown so far, Zelda falls down a hole. We're not sure what happens to her. There are some voice lines suggesting that she might be okay after the attack from Ganon. We're not sure. But assuming she doesn't die, which I'm going to be frank, I find it really hard to believe they would just kill off Zelda. Like, I'm not saying something bad can't happen to her, but I feel like they wouldn't just kill her off and that's it. Like, there'd be more to her story than just that. So, point I'm getting at here, though, is that considering the history of how they've handled Zelda before and how people really want to see Zelda take a more active role, maybe there's going to be some plot points that are not fully answered to. So, what I mean is, you know, like, maybe Zelda has her own adventure, we have no idea what happens with her, and maybe there's a DLC where we get to experience that. So imagine if Skyward Sword was the new... I mean, yes, we had Skyward Sword HD, but they weren't going to do a DLC for a remaster like that. Or not even a remaster, if you whatever you want to call it, an HDification. But imagine if there was, like, if a Skyward Sword came out in this modern era, where DLC would make sense. What do you think the DLC would be? I feel like if there's two waves, one of the waves could be, like, a Zelda adventure. Like, what would that be? It would be a different take. It would be a side mode. But it would be kind of fun to see something like that. Like, I could see that as, like, a Wave 1 thing, and then the Wave 2 would be... Like, maybe, like, Wave 1's like, hey, here's a challenge mode that we're throwing in there. And also, here's, like, a little mini side adventure of how Zelda handled things. And then the Wave 2 would be just a new adventure in a new area. I'll say, like, an island just erupts from the ocean, and then it's, like, a big area. You know, it's, like, a whole other little map to explore. So, you know, like, I think there's definitely some DLC potential there. Obviously, we don't know that much about the main game yet. So, I feel like, you know, some of you may be like, oh, why are we even talking about DLC right now? We barely know about Tears of the Kingdom itself. Maybe. But, you know, I think when we factor in this conversation about how they may be handling Switch 2 and how there may be a graphics enhancement patch for the expansion pass for Scarlet and Violet alongside a new system, like, these conversations, I think, become a little bit more relevant. Checking with the chat here, though. Joy CJ asks me, know how in Skyward Sword the Laramie Mountains had crazy technology at some point? I wonder if that has a connection to Sheikah Tech from Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom. Thoughts? Yeah, that's what I was trying to allude to earlier, actually, when Charles is on. Like, the little robots, how we see, like, the giant robots all over, like, that technology. What if this technology... is kind of like that, or rather, I mean, it seems like the ruins in Hyrule don't really show anything of a civilization like from the Linear Mines, really. But it would be interesting if maybe, because like that, what Linear Mines shows is there was an entire civilization like that, right? And from what we've seen of the Sheikah technology, it hasn't, at least from my perspective, from what I've seen, it doesn't look like it's, like, at one point the Sheikah had massive cities and giant statues honoring whoever it was and their people. So, I feel that we need something to change if we're going to actually see a scenario where it's kind of like a renewing of a cycle. By the way, I am not saying that I'm committed to this idea that for sure that there is a renewing of a cycle. I personally don't want that to happen. Like, that's my bias. Like, I don't want that to happen. Not exactly. Like, I'm okay with it, like, thematically being a renewing of a cycle, but I want them to continue to move forward. I don't like the idea of thinking that they're kind of stuck in a time loop where the events of Skyward are going to happen again. It's never going to change. It's just going to be this forever loop. I see how that could be cool. For some people, I just personally don't like it because I want to always think that there's always something new ahead. Of course, you know, we haven't seen the entire history of Hyrule, right? So Nintendo can infinitely come up with new interesting stories regardless, and because of how much time has passed, there could be giant, crazy, advanced civilizations that get broken down and we never see them. Which, you know, could explain why we don't see them why we don't see anything from the Linear Mines in Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. Like, that's, you know, that's a possibility. So, you know, while I don't personally want that to renew, I think that they could. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just, if it were to happen, I guess what I'm trying to get at here is that I'm okay if it happens, if it's like certain elements are renewing for a cycle, but it doesn't straight up mean that they're not moving towards the future. So, like, maybe, yes, like this idea that maybe Ganon becomes a new Demon King, there's a new army like Demise, and there's this great battle, and maybe Zelda ascends to like goddesshood. Like, maybe that does happen, and I'm not necessarily against stuff like that. I just don't want it to be where 100 years later it's going to be the events of Skyward Sword again. I don't want that. I want it to be 100 years later, we still don't know what's going to happen. We're heading in a different direction, even though the cycle has been reset somewhat. Yeah, and actually, Joyce, to your point, what I really like the idea of is them breaking the cycle. I actually like the idea of Ganon being defeated for good in this game, like, for good. And what for good means doesn't mean that there can't be a future game where we don't see Ganon again, but this is where he's done in the timeline. Like, any game that takes place after Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, it ain't about Ganon or Ganondorf. If we want to see Ganon or Ganondorf again, you have to go back to a different time, a different point in the timeline. Like, that's what I would like to see. Charles Trudell asks me, curious to hear what you think, though, what the DLC will be about. Want to hear your thoughts. So, yeah, I mean, as Brian Doe, you know, had brought up, like, this idea of maybe, like, Zelda going through her own trials to unlock her own power as a DLC, I feel like there's a chance of that. But I also think that a Wave 2, or, like, the big chunk of the DLC for Tears of the Kingdom will be, like, an expansion adventure. Like, something like a Torn of the Golden Country. Not necessarily a prologue, but just like another big area to explore that has significant length and depth to it. And I think there's a lot of reason to do something like this. One, DLC is gonna make money. It's gonna make Nintendo money, so that there you go. That's it. And we're gonna buy it and play it because the more Zelda, the better, right? Like, that's reason enough alone, I would say. But two, with the Switch 2, you know, I think they're gonna want some sort of like situation, kind of like a Miles Morales, where they have this expansion story, and there'll be an enhancement patch as well for Tears of the Kingdom, so they can have something that's big for Zelda to kind of hype alongside a new system. Now, it's saying it won't also be available for Switch, but just so they can have that there as well. But then, thirdly, if Tears of the Kingdom's coming out now, and it is, but I just mean we have to wait 6+ years for this. Yeah, about 6 years. You know, 6 years, 6 years and 2 months, 6 years, 2 months and a week. But yeah, it's about right, because 2017 March 3rd versus 2023. That's 6 years later. May, that's almost 2 months later. And then the 12th is like a week after the 3rd, right? So, like, yeah, about 6 years, 2 months, and a week later, we get Tears of the Kingdom. That's a long cycle, and I understand that COVID played a role there, but it does feel like there is this trend that development between major Zelda games is getting longer and longer. And, you know, at first, when they introduced the sequel, I thought they were trying to go in the opposite direction. I thought they were trying to minimize the development cycle so they could actually have Zeldas come out more frequently. And I'm not saying I need a Zelda game to come out every year or even every 2 years, but if they could get into a flow where they're having a new Zelda come out every 3 to 4 years, like that would have that. I think that would be kind of better. But you know, they Zelda games take long and they make sure they're as good as possible. Point is, how long is the next one going to take? Another 6 years? Or is it going to take even longer? Is it going to take another 7 years? Even if it's 5 years, that's a really long time. So I think they need to do things in between to help bridge that gap. Enter this expansion DLC, like that. Maybe that comes out a year after the release for Tears of the Kingdom, or a year and a half afterwards. So they take their time with it. Like they have Wave 1, maybe there's a Wave 2. I don't know what they would do, but point is they have some waves, but the final big wave, the final expansion adventure, that comes out during the beginning of the Switch 2 life cycle, still available for Switch, and it's kind of like this big adventure that helps to kind of bridge the gap between Tears of the Kingdom and the next actual brand new Zelda. This actually brings me back to a theory I brought up the other day. I also think that a HD, there will be a new remake in the Zelda series. And when I say not HD, like I don't mean like a remaster like we've seen. I mean like a remake or a reimagining. And I'm predicting that in between the release of Tears of the Kingdom and its DLC and the next brand new ground up Zelda, we will see a reimagined Ocarina of Time. That's my prediction. I think we're going to see something like that. Why? I think that will have a shorter development cycle. I don't think it'll take that long. And I think it's something that can get out sooner while we wait for the next big Zelda. Maybe it's not a reimagining, more like a remake with some new elements. But that's what I'm predicting. That's just it's a prediction, and I think they would get that 3 or 4 years after, or two might be too a little bit. Let's say about 3-ish years, 3 to 4 years after Tears of the Kingdom, and then 2 or 3 years later we get the actual brand new Zelda, which would be a long time from now. Yeah. So all aboard the Switch 2 Ocarina of Time remake train. Thank you, Tony the Expert. Yeah. I hope it happens, but we'll see. I mean, really, I just hope they just give a Zelda and they find a way to do it. And I think that's one solution. Well, I'm going back up the chat here because I know I missed some things. Sean Castle Singer asks me, there's something in that Tears of the Kingdom page that refers to the game as an endless adventure. I think that the DLC may unlock something that makes it very replayable. Let's see. Let me Control F that. Is there anything there that says endless? I don't see endless here. Was there a particular word you saw in this website that suggests that? I'm gonna read through real quick. Explore the vast land and skies of Hyrule. Epic adventure across the land of skies of Hyrule awaits The Legend of Zelda. The adventure is yours to create in a world fueled by your imagination. The adventure is yours to create in a world fueled by your imagination. That's interesting. Kind of. There might be more. There might be. I may be overanalyzing here, but there might be something to this when you consider all that crafting they just showed off. In this sequel, you'll decide your own path through the sprawling landscapes of Hyrule and the mysterious islands floating in the vast skies above. We decide our own path. Can you harness the power of Link's new abilities to fight back against the malevolent forces that threaten the kingdom? Mabes. Yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of summary. So we'll see. We'll see on that one. I have this theory though that I've brought up before. Like, you know how you have the ocean to the east, you have the desert to the south, and then there's this endless expanse to the west and the north. I've theorized that, you know, something they could do to kind of make that interesting is have it be like randomly generated endlessly, and the further out you go there, you just have to deal with more enemies, more weather, more events that are challenging, and it's kind of like it's a challenge mode like built into the world. The further out you go, the harder it gets, but the further out you go, the more things you kill, and the more jewelry, treasure, weapons you get, and loot you can take back. So, and it would kind of give you this perception of an infinite world that would be very believable, but it would also function as a proper way to kind of close in the game, and it would work both ways. I would love that they would do something like that. I think that would be more fun than just having an invisible barrier that says, hey, you can't go any further, turn around. That's all. Whenever I see that in a game, super disappointing. I understand it's a video game, it's not real life. There have to be natural barriers at some point or another. But how cool would it be if they did what I said, where they actually do get rid of the natural barriers, and the barrier is just how far you can go, and it's just a randomly generated world at that point. That would be cool. And you could always warp back whenever you want. I will not give up on that dream. A guy you don't know, I think I saw this earlier, but I never got to, and I wanted to. How likely does a VR mode in Metroid Prime 4 sound to you at this point in time? %33%. Why do I say 33%? It's that low because if Metroid Prime 4 comes out this year, which I'm not saying it will come out this year, but some things are pointing towards it coming out this year now more so than before, so the odds of that have gone up a little bit in my head. If it comes out this year, it's for straight up for Switch. I just don't see them pushing a VR, although, you know, with this recent rumor that maybe Switch 2 does come out this year, then maybe they would do that. I'll stick with 33% just because, you know, I take it back. I'm going up to 49%. A 49%, almost 50% that a VR mode happens in Prime 4. It would be like an alternative thing. Maybe it's added after the fact. Kind of like how they added like Labo VR support to some games after the fact. It could happen after the fact, but I think there should be a Prime 4 VR mode. It just makes too much sense. So this is all contingent upon Nintendo having a dedicated VR setup that comes out relatively soon in relation to Metroid Prime 4. Like within a couple years of its release. That way it's kind of like, hey, Prime 4 is still selling, we should have this VR kit. Or maybe, oh, let's kind of push Prime 4 sales, so let's, you know, add VR here to get people back into the game or something. So that's something I can kind of see. Yeah. I don't know. I'll say, really, with VR, you know, can that be something that Nintendo does to kind of make Switch 2 differentiate itself? Maybe. I don't know if for sure they would do outside the box, but I think a new system has a much better chance of having some sort of VR setup. I would say there would be a separate VR SKU, most likely. It wouldn't be. It would be like somewhat how Sony handles it, but cheaper. There's got to be a way to make it more accessible. Yeah. Just moving back into chat here. Sean adds, I saw Endless Adventure on the page another streamer was reviewing. I promise I saw on an official Nintendo page. Well, we could check. That was the official Zelda page, right? So maybe it was on like Nintendo.com's description for Tears of the Kingdom. Let's see. By the way, last I checked, Prime Remastered is still top of the eShop, which is great. I cannot find... Yeah, I don't know. I can't find this Endless Adventure thing. Although what I showed earlier was close. The adventure is yours to create in a world fueled by your imagination. Like, that is not... It's fueled by your imagination. Your imagination could be endless. So, I think that could be pretty strong. Yeah, Brian Doe. I haven't forgotten about the dragons. I know they're coming back. I think there might be more. Ooh. Jim Coolis. Just played Metroid Prime 1 for the first time on Switch, and it feels like a series that would work absolutely perfect in VR. I'm glad you agree. Yeah, I mean, it is so super interesting how it feels like the ideal VR game now, right? SP Narwhal. You know what would be a interesting move? Releasing DLC for Breath of the Wild that is between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Would boost sales of Breath of the Wild, could expand on the map if there's additional areas of Tears of the Kingdom. I think this close to release probably won't happen, but it would have been an interesting way to tease Tears of the Kingdom a few months back or a year or so back. They didn't do it, but, you know, it would have been cool. So I totally agree. Zeromancer, you still haven't played Metroid Prime 1. One day soon, maybe after Tears of the Kingdom. Listen, Prime Remastered, $40. It's not as long as a Zelda game, but it's super fun. It's super replayable, very challenging. It is one of the best experiences you can get on Switch. That Metacritic score of 94, one of the highest rated games on Switch. It's not just hearsay. It's legit. Prime 1 is an amazing game. I have heard that we may be seeing some stock soon. So, yeah, Charles, they may add that soon. So, let's move on to Pokemon here. We talked about the Switch situation a little bit. We talked about Tears of the Kingdom a little bit. So, Pokemon Presents. I am glad I did not stream it. I mean, I was tired after my art book analysis video. I honestly that took me a really long time. I'm not saying I'm the most efficient editor, but like I moved my I did not pay attention to my phone. Sometimes my phone can definitely like slow down my productivity, right? Like, you know, if you're working on something, you stop looking at your phone, you go on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, and then before you know it, you're scrolling through shorts for like 15 minutes. You're like, Jesus, I wasted all that time. So like sometimes I'm like, no, I need to get something done. I put my phone away and I don't look at it for hours, right? That's when I actually get stuff done. I just work on whatever it is I'm doing. I worked on that art book analysis all day. And I had done hours of work on it the night before, the morning before, on Saturday and Friday, and I was concepting it for a little while. So like, it took me a long time. That was like, I don't know, maybe 2 days worth of work total or something. It was a lot. Maybe more. Anyway. What was I gonna get at? Right, anyway, so I was just tired afterwards is my main point. I was tired after that. And I still went out on Saturday with some friends. You know, it's not like I didn't do anything, but it was kind of like, you know, I had to squeeze it in, right? But point is I was tired. So instead of getting up in the morning to stream the Pokemon Presents, I just slept in a little bit. And when I saw that Presents, I was like, oh, I'm glad I didn't stream this, because this was a snoozer. You know, how do the kids say? Mid? I did not really like the Pokemon Presents. I thought it was kind of lame. I think... No, I'm not saying there wasn't good stuff in it. But it was just... You know, like, I think the Scarlet and Violet DLC is going to be great. But also, what they really tell us about the Scarlet Violet DLC? They gave us the names. It's very cryptic. But it's so cryptic, I'm not even sure I can put, like, an analysis video on it. Like, there's no gameplay or anything, right? Like, I really wanted to analyze it and be like... I wanted to make an analysis video on the Scarlet Violet DLC trailer. That's what my plan was. So my plan going into today was I was going to see the Presents and then put out a trailer analysis for it. But that trailer analysis is, I don't know. I'll take another look at the trailer. Maybe there's something there. But it was too cryptic and abstract for me. Maybe I'll analyze a bit more, and there's something more I can sort of extrapolate from it, but it wasn't much. Beyond that, I mean, seeing Paradox, Suicune, and Virizion cool, right? Like, and they like, so I'm not, again, I think the DLC for Scarlet and Violet is great. It's just they didn't show that much of it, so there wasn't really that much to get excited for. You know what I mean? And then they finally revealed Pokemon Sleep, which I guess that's kind of a big deal. We've been waiting on that for years, but also, I never thought it was going to be, like, you know, a game changer. Well, I mean, if it helps my sleep cycle, maybe. Like, it's a neat little thing, but it's not like, you know, it ain't no Pokemon Legends Arceus. It ain't no Pokken Tournament. It ain't no Pokemon Snap, you know? It's not even a Pokemon Unite or a Pokemon Go. Like, it's a sleep app. It helps to regulate your sleep. It helps to make regulating your sleep more fun. And I think that's totally valid. And I may even download it. I may even give it a try. But it isn't exactly exciting, right? I'm not like, oh my god, Pokemon Sleep, I can't wait, you know? So, that wasn't a big deal for me. The Pikachu doll, though, I thought that was creepy. I think that Pikachu doll should totally be a part of, like, a horror movie or something. That thing is creepy. They made it almost lifelike, which was kind of neat. Like, I'm glad they kind of did that because it was kind of cool. But also, for me, it was a little creepy. It was a little creepy that they had that doll thing there. You know, like, I don't want one. Well, it is kind of fascinating, actually. But I think I would, like, put it in a closet after a little while. Or let my dog... Well, it was probably expensive, so I would not let a dog get it. What else did they have? Pokemon Cafe Remix. I mean, Pokemon Cafe already exists, so, like, that's not really crazy. Oh, more Pokemon Unite content. Cool. I like Unite. I haven't played it in, like, a year and a half, but, you know, it's a cool game. It's a cool, fun, free-to-play game. The thing they mentioned something about Pokemon Go, they did. I think there's, like, a Snorlax with a hat or something, and there's, like, some sort of crossover with Pokemon Sleep. That's pretty much it, though. I don't... Nothing else. There was not much else from the presents there. So, yeah, it just didn't really give me anything. There was no Detective Pikachu, no Mystery Dungeon, no exciting new Pokemon spin-offs this year. We have the DLC coming, but the DLC is... Like, they didn't even tell us that much about it. That's a whole other element there. So, yeah, we really just didn't get that much information. The big exciting news today was that they leaked all the DLC details on Friday, and this leak contains Switch 2 information. And also, I mean, I think the Tears of the Kingdom DLC report is kind of a... I think it's almost non-news, but we'll see. I think the fact... I do think that there is going to be Tears of the Kingdom DLC. So, yeah. Let's check with the chat here. Charles Trudell, too soon present is all. Makes sense when they had 3 games in 12 months and 3 months before now. Yeah, I think this is going to be a down year for Pokemon. Yeah, you don't know. That's right. We've known about Detective Pikachu sequel for years. What is going on with that? Like, I thought this would be the year. I thought this would be it. And it doesn't look like it. Not at all. Charles, you think it's less than mid. Just a splash screen for the DLC, a new Pokeball for Go and Sleep. Oh yeah, that's right. There was the animated series for Netflix, which it's stop motion, which I'm not saying won't be cool, but that doesn't strike me as like a major effort. Like, it's not like in a big new live action episodic series, or it's not another Detective Pikachu movie. So it struck me as a smaller scale Netflix project. Maybe they're saying Detective Pikachu 2 for the next system. That's a good point, Charles. Could be. Or they'll just announce it randomly next year. Could still come out next year, I guess. Let's see here. I see Zelda's Geek Apprentice. It's in the translation of one of the Nintendo websites in a different language. I saw them on, I think, Nintendo Prime's video. Are you referring to the Endless Adventure thing? Okay. Joshua, Pokemon might have well given nothing. It felt like a massive nothing burger, didn't it? I think they just always have presents. And, you know, I put out like a little short kind of explaining why they call them Pokemon Presents now instead of Pokemon Directs. Because Pokemon Company likes to talk about their other projects in their own dedicated events. They go beyond just Switch games. And so we had a lot of non-game stuff or non-console game stuff. So we had Pokemon Sleep. We had Pokemon Unite, which it's Switch content, but also mobile. They brought up Pokemon Masters, which is entirely mobile. The Netflix series is not even game related at all. So, you know, like most of the content that presents was not an actual game that we can play. And if you count for Switch, like it really was Scarlet and Violet DLC, and then Unite, I guess technically. This Cafe Remix, I think, is also Switch though, right? Like that'll be for Switch and mobile. So yeah, it was, yeah, you know, that's one that I just didn't care for. It will be one of the presents that will be forgotten. But not that Pikachu doll. That will stay in my nightmares forever. James, do you think Wind Waker Twilight Princess will be released as the last Switch title, like how Skyward Sword was last on Wii, Breath of the Wild was last on Wii U? Well, the difference here is that Skyward Sword was made for the Wii, Breath of the Wild was made for the Wii U, Wind Waker and Twilight Princess were made for the GameCube. So, and they had the HD remasters on Wii U. I don't know, but I do think there is an increased chance of more remasters coming though, and I'm open to there being those games even coming out in the second half this year. I think maybe they could hold off on Tears of the Kingdom DLC for like 6 months to 9 months, announce it later next year, because just work on it for a little while, and have Twilight Princess and Wind Waker come out the second half of this year. Like I can actually see something like that. And it's purely all about the setup for Nintendo's next system and how they're going to transition over to that. Yeah, of course, you know, if the rumor is true and we are getting Switch 2 this year, that kind of changes things a little bit. So we'll see. It really comes down to if there is going to be a new system coming out this year or not. Of course, Nintendo may not care. Nintendo may just put those in a vault for like another 3 or 4 years. I mean, and actually going back to the conversation we had before, you think about how the bridge to help bridge things over, right? I talked about DLC. I talked about an Ocarina of Time remake. They may also want to save Wind Waker and Twilight Princess to have content to be available between major Zelda releases, and maybe they do some things to change these. Maybe Twilight Princess and Wind Waker aren't just straight Wii U riffs. Maybe they change the content a little bit. They kind of have to, at least in terms of controls and stuff. And maybe they put them with 4K textures, and maybe they're run at 60 FPS. Like there's some little things they can do that would make them a little bit more worth revisiting a couple years from now, and it would make sense to kind of bridge the gap a little bit better. So that may be more why Wind Waker and Twilight Princess haven't been introduced yet. I mean, the more I think about it, I'm now shying away from them coming out sooner. I'm sorry. I'm thinking that they may want to save them to help bridge this long gap between Tears of the Kingdom and whatever's next, because it's sure to be a long time. I bet with Tears of the Kingdom, it's the last of that art style. They're going to move on to something different for their next hardware, and that's going to be years away. So, we'll see. I bet the next new Zelda will be a swan song for the current system and a launch title for the next system. So not Switch 2. We're already talking about Switch 3 7 years from now. So, yeah. Yeah, exactly, Tony the Expert. At this rate, it'll be Twilight Princess Wind Waker 4K. Yeah. I think that's what's happened. That's what would happen. Yeah. All right, so this podcast may end a little bit earlier than usual. I will leave it open to you guys. Give it, yeah. So if you guys have any questions or ideas you want me to bring up, shoot now. Throw it at me. throw it at me. I may want to end things a little bit earlier tonight just because I want to set myself up to get out a video relatively quick tomorrow. It's my brother's birthday tomorrow, so I want to make sure I'm mostly available to celebrate it with him. Jesse Beholder, if they do something like Metroid Prime, it'll be worth the wait for Wink Waker. Yeah, it would be. That would be pretty good. Wind Waker remastered like Prime would be amazing, but I don't expect them to do that. I think giving them a 4K upscale at 60 frames per second, I think would actually be pretty nice. Kukola, Sages and Tears of the Kingdom, thoughts? Yes, I do think Sages are returning in Tears of the Kingdom. And I pretty much say that because the title reveal trailer, they show those 7 orbs. 7. I think 7. 7 is the amount of sages there are. There are 7 sages. 7 dungeons. Here we go. The Master Sword has been destroyed. They need to restore the Master Sword. Master Sword has usually been restored and reforged at temples that require sages. 7 sages. So yeah, I do kind of believe there's a decent chance we see sages return. I think that's how they're gonna function. And also considering that Ganondorf is playing a vital role in this story, typically sages have been used to help combat against Ganondorf as well, or Ganon. So there's honestly a lot of reason to think that sages are coming back. James asks me, do you think Tears of the Kingdom will live up to the title of the Majora's Mask of Breath of the Wild? Yes. I think so. Well, I guess it depends on how you interpret that, right? So Majora's Mask of Breath of the Wild, when you said that, I interpreted it as like a game that sets itself apart from its predecessor, but also feels a lot darker. And by those two metrics, I do think Tears of the Kingdom will do that. I think Tears of the Kingdom is going to find a way to feel very different from Breath of the Wild. And I also think that it's going to feel a lot darker. I think the latest trailer does a great job of that. I think having Ganondorf with that voice, that shrill voice, I think this increased potency of the demonic reign of Ganon and his army. I think the underground, I think with Link and how ruined his body is, like, he's damaged. I don't think we've ever seen a living playable Link have this much scars on him. So I would say that definitely goes in the direction of dark. Now, something that I think should be said, though, is Majora's Mask is really cool, because I think what Majora's Mask does better than almost any game there is that it does a fantastic job of feeling eerie and magical and mysterious all at the same time. I mean, if you've played Majora's Mask, you know what I mean. So I don't get those vibes of that from Tears of the Kingdom. Like, Tears of the Kingdom doesn't feel creep. Tears of the Kingdom is not like... Tears of the Kingdom isn't creepy. Tears of the Kingdom isn't, like, eerie. Creepy and eerie can be used as Majora's Mask and still also feel magical. Like, it is that. Tears of the Kingdom feels more epic and grand, but also with this darkness. Like, there is, like, a stakes. Like, Tears of the Kingdom feels like there's a lot of stakes to it. So it feels significant, but it doesn't feel creepy or eerie, you know? I'll say that watching the first teaser for Tears of the Kingdom, back when it was called Breath of the Wild 2, or the sequel to Breath of the Wild, is amazing. Like, if you put on headphones and listen, just take your time and listen to the very first trailer. And if you have a way to listen to it in reverse, try that too, slow it down. The heartbeats that you hear, the depths of the environments that they're exploring, the voices that we can't quite make out, but we hear there's some voices there. And there's been some interpretations that they're maybe saying help us. I'm inclined to believe them. But regardless, there are voices saying something. It may be indistinguishable, but there is something. And there's this heartbeat. And it's almost like it sounds like almost like it's in reverse. Like it sounds. I don't want to use the word creepy for it. Horrific. I don't want to say either. But it's scary. It's scary. I mean, maybe it's creepy, but it's more of like a more grand, epic creepy, if that makes sense. So, man, I wish there was a. I just can't. I need a better adjective here. Eerie, creepy, fit Majora's Mask better than Tears of the Kingdom, but I don't think when you take that first trailer in mind, those words kind of describe it, but there's something more to it. It's like the stakes. It feels very heavy and threatening. And we see more of the heavy threatening in the latest trailer. But anyway, yes, I think it could be that. But I also think Tears of the Kingdom has a chance to be considered maybe one of the greatest games ever made. Majora's Mask, I think most people will agree, is not considered to be as good of a game as Ocarina of Time. Although, I actually think Majora's Mask might be a better game, but it didn't make as much of an impact. And Tears of the Kingdom may not make as much of an impact either. But also, Majora's Mask was a smaller game than Ocarina of Time. That's another thing. Majora's Mask wasn't as grand or epic as Ocarina of Time. Tears of the Kingdom is bigger, more grand, has larger scale than Breath of the Wild. So Tears of the Kingdom is attempting to be the quintessential fantasy adventure game, medieval fantasy adventure game. It's trying to outdo Breath of the Wild. Majora's Mask didn't try to outdo Ocarina of Time. It tried to do its own thing. So it's a little different. Cool. Spooky, I think, actually does. Spooky and daunting, I think, are good adjectives. Some combination of those two for the initial trailer. So thank you, Kukula. Thank you, Dracon. Those are good adjectives there. Zelda's Geek Apprentice. I would love to see an Ocarina of Time remake. Could you elaborate a little on how or when you think we could get it? Sure. And again, this is just my own personal prediction. There isn't much evidence to it beyond just Nintendo needing something to bridge the gap between major Zeldas. I mean, honestly, I probably could make it into its own video. A long time ago, I did talk about Nintendo sort of reimagining Ocarina of Time the same way Square Enix has reimagined Final Fantasy VII. Although I wouldn't want them to divide into 3 different games. I would just want it to be one game, but maybe with like a breath. Like, imagine if Ocarina of Time was redone with that art style, but through the physics and open air of from Breath of the Wild. Like, how cool would that be? I'm not even sure we should even expect that per se, but man, if they were to like redo Ocarina of Time like remastered, that would be pretty cool. But I think we would have to change around the layout, modernize some things. So I would think it would have to be even more large scale than Prime Remastered, in order to kind of make it feel like a proper modern game. I think they would have to do that. But in terms of like the timing of it, assuming Tears of the Kingdom DLC comes out within about a year and a half afterwards, I think we wouldn't see anything about this for like another 3 years. But I could see it also because it's a remake. I think when it's announced, it'll come out within a year of its announcement. So maybe 3 or 4 years from now, we see an Ocarina of Time HD, and then 2 or 3 years after that, we're talking about the release for the next Zelda. It's just something that's kind of a bridge in the middle, and I think it would be cool. I think the idea of it being done as like redoing it with the Breath of the Wild engine wouldn't quite work, because at that point it becomes like its own major Zelda game that would have like a 5 or 6 year development cycle. But I think maybe going back to the Prime Remaster idea, like completely rebuild the visual assets, but maybe rethink the overall layout a little bit more. Maybe add some modern mechanics, remix the boss fights in the dungeons a bit, and obviously redo the cutscenes and, you know, the voice work and all. I mean, with voice work, voice lines. Oh man, that would be cool, right? I think they can make it into, like, you know, a 20, 30-ish hour adventure. Maybe add a few more side quests or something. Like, yeah, something that's not nearly as vast as a Breath of the Wild or a Tears of the Kingdom, but something that would help to, again, it would be a bridge title. It would be something to help us wait for the next 7 years for the next Zelda game. So hopefully that kind of, it's a little something more for you. Sean Castle Singer. Okay, update. On Japan Nintendo Store, the collector's edition says endless 3 times in the description. Okay. The Japan Nintendo Store. The Japan Nintendo Store. Okay. I want to take a look at the English one real quick here. Includes Legend of Zelda. Okay, so, man, is there Japan Nintendo Store Tears of the Kingdom? Will that take me? Collector's edition. Will that kind of help me a little bit? No. I just was just sent to the Nintendo of America page. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, Kukula. It could be just something lost in translation. But I would love to see it. Yeah, if one of you could say, if you find a link and you could send it to me on Discord or Twitter, or just tell me what to search, I'll look it up. I'll gladly take a look and, you know, see if I can see any details there that are interesting. Guy you don't know. Would intimidating describe tone of the Tears of the Kingdom for you? Yeah, I think intimidating fits. Definitely. Having Hope 5. What about dark and eerie? Dark, yeah. Eerie, a little. A little. Zelda's Geek Apprentice. I think the green adhesive is found hanging from the Hinox neck is the glue for the vehicles. I just thought it was a rock, but maybe it could be melted down or something. There's definitely a lot of green stuff. That's for sure. James, what's your opinion on the rumors of Illumination doing a Zelda movie? It's kind of one of those I'll believe it when I see it things. But I'll tell you this, I think some people heard that rumor and thought, oh man, but Illumination just makes kiddie comedic movies. Like, they can't make, maybe they could do Mario, but they can't do Zelda. I think what we're seeing of Mario so far shows that they can expand their scope a bit already. So if they can make a good Mario movie, maybe they can expand their scope just a little bit more and make a good Zelda movie. So I do think a Zelda movie would have a different feel and it would have to take itself more seriously than a Mario movie. I'm not saying there wouldn't be humor in it, but it would definitely have to be more on the epic side of things, more serious side of things in Mario. So I'm not sure if they could handle it really well, just because there's not a history there. But like I said before, people weren't sure they could do a Mario movie well, and from what we're seeing, it looks like they're doing a great job. So with, they hire the right staff, they have the right creative leads. They would have to go in a different direction, sure, but that doesn't mean they wouldn't be able to make a good Zelda movie. So I'm not all in on believing that Illumination's making a Zelda movie, but I do think a Zelda movie does need to happen down the road. And I don't think we'll see it for at least another few years, but there could be a couple other rumors popping up. Maybe Nintendo will make an announcement like within about a year after the release of the Mario movie for a Zelda project. But so I guess, well, I think there will be a Zelda project. That doesn't mean I think it's going to be Illumination. I think Illumination could do it. I'm just not totally convinced. And when I say could do, I mean like would Nintendo hire them to do it? And I think if Nintendo did hire them to do it, I would trust that Nintendo and Illumination would find the right creative minds to do it right. So, yes, it would be a different direction from what they normally do, but I think they could find a way to make it work. Spheromancer. I do wonder if they're planning anything else with the Breath of the Wild engine, honestly. We know how much effort and time they put into it. It wouldn't be totally surprised if they did remakes in it. Well, I mean, if they want to use the physics, but, you know, just don't make the world that vast, maybe they could. Maybe they could rebuild it with that engine. I think it would be neat, too, because if they go with something smaller scale, the visual fidelity will be look substantially better. Okay, Castle, I see you sent me the message. Thank you. I'm going to check it out. Okay. Alright, so I'm looking at the translation. Here, let me share it with you guys. It's getting mad at me. It's getting mad at me because of, I'm in the wrong country. Yeah, I'll share it with you guys real quick. Okay. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Collector's Edition. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is an endless adventure that spreads into the sky, a sequel to Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Wherever you go and what you do is up to you in a world that stretches endlessly to the vast expanse of land and the sky above the clouds. Will you soar through the sky and explore mysterious sky islands with the new power that Link has in his hand? Will you confront the incident in Hyrule? Your own endless adventure begins again. Yeah, I mean, that's endless 3 times. They could be using the same word each time, and the translator interprets it as endless. So I don't want to put too much stock into it immediately, just because, you know, endless could be an exaggeration. But I'll tell you, what a cool innovation it would be if, like, it is something that's meant to be, it is designed in a way that has endless gameplay possibilities, that could be infinite if you're constantly rebuilding, restructuring Hyrule. If maybe my idea is right and it is kind of like a randomly generated, beyond the boundaries sort of minigame, that would be really fun. What I want to see, though, is there's a way, if I can retranslate this back to Japanese and like take it back into a translator and see if I get a different word. No, keep it in Japanese, Google. I want it in Japanese. Thank you. Alright, so I'm gonna take this bottom text. I'm gonna go to Google Translate. I realize maybe I shouldn't go to Google Translate again, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Google Translate, and then I'll see if I can look at another one. Japanese to English. Alright, let me put in this body of text. What does it interpret? Yes, please translate it. Not Japanese to Japanese, Japanese to English. Let's go. Okay, so I put it through and it says wherever you go. I mean, it's the same thing. It says it has endless in there. But is there, what's a good free language translator? I usually only use Google, but I'm curious if there's any others that I could use. Free translation online. Okay. We want English. I found one. Let's see if it's any different. I'm putting in this body of text, translate. Still says endless. Still endless. So, you know. Says endless. You know, I don't speak Japanese. I know I don't. Well, I definitely don't read it. So, yeah. Quinn McDonald, I love you on Just Restart. Thank you for doing the podcast tonight. No problem. We ran into some issues, but you know, it's all good. Thank you for coming around. Lost Boys Gaming, thank you for the super chat. I think I missed this from earlier. Tears of the Kingdom is a Switch's song. Bring on Switch 2. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Charanara, you want to try the Papago translator? Let me see if I can copy and paste. Yep. All right, here you go. There it is. I took the bottom paragraph. There we go. James, would you be in favor of a Zelda MMO? Yeah. Would I be in, if it was a spin-off? I'm open to a Zelda MMO, a Zelda-esque MMO spin-off. Yeah. This is from the Japanese site, so you know I posted it there. If you want to see if you can get any other translations. Char is saying that Japanese to Korean is quite smooth. Okay. Boundless. Okay, that's a good one. Cool. Boundless is probably more accurate. It could be how Boundless translates. And James says endless likely translate to open world. Actually, with that in mind, looking at what they say for Tears of the Kingdom on the English site, there's nothing here that talks about open. I mean, it says in the sequel, decide your own path through a sprawling landscape of Hyrule. They use sprawling. Yeah, not this part, at least. All right, so what is you posted text Chara in the chat, but I don't know what it means. Putting it in my translator here. What is it? In English. Your own endless adventure begins again. Yeah. It can mean endless and just like no end. I have a hard time believing that it's infinite. You know? Like, I just have a hard time believing, unless it's like, you know, they do something. But I do think that there may be a lot more possibilities in this game, so the gameplay may have a lot more depth and replayability than even Breath of the Wild. Like, I do think that's possible. Alright, so looks like I'm gonna call it a night. Also, there's a couple things here I missed, and then I'll call it a night. Guy, you don't know, have you ever heard about Matt Mercer likely being the voice of actor for Ganondorf? I heard that. I don't have much to say on it. I wasn't really. I'm not saying I'm not saying I'm not a fan of Matt Mercer. I just never really connected a name to the voice, you know. I'm looking up some of his roles here. Done a lot. I'm looking for something that I've watched that I've been like a really big fan of. Thing is, I usually watch anime in Japanese, right? So a lot of English voice actors I won't really recognize. Not a fan of Overwatch. I'm not saying I hate Overwatch. It's not really, you know. Like for example, One Piece, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I love those. Apparently he had roles for those, but I watched them in English. I mean, I watched them in Japanese, not English. So I can't really tell you much on him. But I mean, if he does it, cool. Whoa, look, I can play an audio here. Whoa, the person even for a moment looks like Link. That's crazy.
The woman who owned me.
What is this?
And no one ever saves people like us.
I'd like to offer you a job. 3 experienced fighters, 2 mages, and yourself. This job must be dangerous.
Alright, I don't want to get claimed. I'm not even sure what I'm looking at. Alright, so I looked at his IMDb. How do I think the little people play a role in Tears of the Kingdom? Well, I don't even know if there are little people in Tears of the Kingdom, so I'm not sure. I do think it would be really cool, though, if they could make the Minish Cap mechanic, like, in an open world game like Breath of the Wild. Like, what would that do to scale yourself down? How would that change things? I think that it would make the world seem a lot bigger, and that would be really exciting to see. Yeah. Be very, very cool. There's this other thing I want to get to here. I do, from Spheromancer, I do wonder if they're planning anything else with the Breath of the Wild engine, honestly. We know how much effort and time they put into it. I wouldn't be totally surprised if they did remakes in it. I mean, yeah, maybe they could redo Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. But also, you know, whatever the Breath of the Wild engine is, I'm not saying they're going to just completely abandon it for the next game. They're probably going to continue to build upon it. But the next Zelda, I don't think is going to be a direct sequel to Tears of the Kingdom. And I don't think it's going to have the same art style. So they're going to work on the engine, improve upon it more so, have it have even more improved mechanics and such, and things that can be done. Use a different art style and go in a different gameplay direction for the next game. Like, I think they'll do that, all of that. And so they're not going to just give up on the engine. They're going to continue to build upon it, probably. But, yes. Anyways, guys, I think that's it for tonight. Thank you, everyone, for coming by. If you could like the stream, that would be super helpful. But if you're new here, subscribe. Anyways, I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.